Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Ajoe21love, here with Sports Overview Topics, episode number 95. Solid lineup for the podcast today. Got some good stuff as we gear towards the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoffs officially start, well, I'm recording this on Monday, and it'll be uploaded Tuesday, so the day of when the podcast you see it, the play-in tournament of the playoffs will start, and then in a week's time, the official playoffs will start. Thank you for joining me. Also, the opening day for the MLB regular season was on Thursday. So, for those baseball fans who are looking to get back into the spring to fall season of baseball, it's back here again after it seemed like for months it was going to be dicey with the lockout. But alas, it has started. Give some thoughts on those as well. But thank you all for joining me. If you're new to podcasts, again, if you want to see more sports overview topics, where I cover all these sports related videos, you can find those on the homepage. Of course, my pro wrestling views, etc., are on the channel as well. Also, like button is there in the corner as well. But thank you all. Let's dive into it. So, the NFL draft. The NFL draft. Sorry, I have my papers with me, but the NFL draft starting in a few weeks' time at the end of the month. And alas, it has been a chaotic off season. I think we can say thus far. And a lot of big moves, a lot of teams possibly getting better. I mean, again, you don't want to go too fast on a team making these big moves and winning the off season because it's the regular season and the postseason where it really matters. But been a lot of big moves coming across this off season in which now the only thing really left is the draft and kind of where is the base of the 2022 NFL season. So I thought with the big moves happening the last number of weeks and with the draft looming, why not make a pre-draft NFL power rankings? I did it last year, you know, because, there's two parts really of the offseason and determining how teams change. Free agency and the draft. So far, it's kind of happened one way. Of course, free agency, big moves. So things can change. Obviously, you know, some pretty good prospects in draft, but give my thoughts on where each team stands as far as today goes. And I have not ranked all the teams. So again, like with the mock draft, you'll see me going through the close to second half of ranking the NFL teams. But feel free to agree, disagree, and comment on a team where you think I am too high, have too low. I mean, this is just my thoughts. You can converse amongst yourselves. But so to start the power rankings, I think it's only fair to see rank the top team, the Los Angeles Rams, at number one as the current best team in the NFL currently. Now, they're the Super Bowl champions, the reigning Super Bowl champions. So there's that. When you look at the losses, they're a bit, a little bit discouraging, but nothing too shabby like last year. Now, they did lose Andrew Whitworth to retirement, but provided no boom is there, fills in. I don't think it'll be a dramatic drop off between. Obviously, Whitworth was still playing as one of the better, if not one of the best, left tackles in the league. They do lose Robert Woods. They did trade him to the Titans. However, they did pick up Allen Robinson, who I think has more upside and a bigger ceiling despite being a veteran in this league, although coming off a down season with the Chicago Bears. So nonetheless, I think it's an upgrade at receiver. OBJ, obviously, that situation still looms, but for those who have watched the podcast, you'll know that my thoughts are he'll get re signed when the season gets underway. So that, and they did lose Corbett to the Panthers right guard, but still the gist of the O line still relatively intact. So there's that. Sign Stafford to long-term extension or good extension, well deserved. Bobby Wagner, adding him, you know, you did lose Von Miller, but you still got Aaron Donald. You still got Jalen Ramsey. I mean, Nick Scott, I imagine he'll play more exclusively at safety. I mean, he kind of earned it with his play in the postseason. Now with Eric Weddle retiring, although Taylor Rapp's going to be back, and the other safety who was hurt, who unfortunately I blank on his name right now, but it's going to be an interesting talk for safety. But yeah, Rams number one. Now, you could argue that, well, this may be recency bias. This may be, you know, tit for tat. But number two, Cincinnati Bengals at number two. Now, look at this, and yes, they were a wild card. Yes, they did finish 10-7 to start or at the end of regular season. But you saw it during the playoffs, and you saw Joe Burrow just tear it up all season. Although he did go through a learning curve. The first, because he played well for the Vikings to start, and then he kind of fizzled in September, October. But once he picked it up, he picked it up. So, and their defense is underrated. I mean, they held that star-studded offense by the Rams to only 23 points. Yes, they lost, but only 23 points. Very well in the run game. You know, they did lose Ogunjobi, but you know, still got Hendrickson. You know, I mean, Jesse Bates. They're still working on an extension, but I imagine that Logan Wilson, another, you know, that defense underrated. And you looked at the Super Bowl and this season, you're like, what do they? What was the number one criteria for them this offseason? And they still may address, will probably address it in the draft. Offensive line. What they do? Get Ted Karras, they get Alex Kappa, they get Lyle Collins. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to be a great O line. I'm not going to say they're going to be Dallas Cowboys of a few years ago, but you look at their additions and you look at the attention Joe Burrow got in him last season, and you can only think it's going to go up from there. So, and you still got Jamar Chase, obviously, Boyd. You did lose Uzama, but of course they still have Higgins and Sample, etc. But they could get another tight end as well, so we'll see about that. But Bengals at 2, you know, could argue they're too high, but yeah, I respect where they were, where they finished. Then we got the Buffalo Bills at 3, who, you know, are obviously gonna be happy that the overtime rule was changed for the postseason, but obviously it happened. You know, Josh Allen. Now, the Bills did take kind of a step back, but also took a step forward this year because they did hit a skid third in the year. You know, they were 3-1. You know, went to Kansas City, tore up the Chiefs, And then it looked like they were going to be the dominant team in the AFC. That was not the case. Then they started to fall at 7-6, but Josh Allen started to take the team on his back. And they won 4 straight, won the division, and although I hate to say it with my gear on, they took apart the Patriots in Buffalo and then gave the Chiefs everything they could have asked for. Everything. And if it wasn't for coaching errors, it would have probably been Bengals, Bills in the AFC title game. And then who knows what would happen from there. But yeah. And then, you know, Emmanuel Sanders, yes, they probably lose him. Cole Beasley, he's been released, but they still have Diggs. Gabriel Davis came out of nowhere. I mean, yes, he's established for the last 2 years, but was kind of a star-making moment in the AFC divisional round against the Chiefs. So you still have those two. Then he made some adjustments on the O-line, signing Saffold from the Titans, you know, re-signed Feliciano. That defense is so hectic, and people forget that Tre'Davious White tore his ACL in the middle of last season. So you gotta think he'll be back, and one of the better corners of the league, and signing Von Miller to a big extension. Now, I don't think he's as good as he was a number of years ago, but I still think he's a good pass rusher. And with that rotation on the D line for the Bills, it's going to make life easier for Von Miller in Buffalo. And Gregory Rousseau, another athlete, keep an eye on him in his sophomore season. Number 4. Now, Tom Brady, if he didn't unretire, I would have them. I don't know. I'd have him in the back half, or at least in the middle of the pack, because that's how good their roster is. But with Tom Brady unretiring, coming back for another season, you know, Buccaneers at 4. I mean, don't need much explanation. Didn't do a whole lot in free agency. Now, what is a bit concerning is they lose both their guards, starting guards, Ali Marpet to retirement, Alex Kappa to the Bengals. So, but they did get Shaq Mason in a trade from the Patriots. So there's that for them. But, still got Evans, still got Godwin. They signed Russell Gage, who I think is an underrated signing. Scotty Miller, I have to believe Gronk will be back. Cameron Brate, they resigned as well. They did lose OJ Howard, who, by the way, went to the Bills as well. That's another thing. But, that defense. Still, the question will remain the secondary. But look across the board, Devin White, Devontae David, JPP, who I think will resign along with Sue. Tryon Shoyinka had a heck of a rookie season. Vita Vea, etc. Not much needs to be said. Number 5, Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I mean, for those who watch the podcast, y'all know my feelings on the Chiefs. But when it comes down to it, the Chiefs, they did lose Tyreek Hill. They have lost to Marcus Robinson. They have lost Byron Pringle. But when it comes down to it, they still have Travis Kelce. I was very impressed by their young O-line last season, especially when they turned the corner. I mean, they were below 500 in the middle of the season, and people were so and so because, well, the offense wasn't playing well, the defense was bad, but then they turned the corner, and then, yeah. So, look, they signed Juju, you know, McCole Harmon, he's still there. Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think the Chiefs will still be fine on offense. It's just, and their defense, Chris Jones, they did lose Honey Badger. They still have Juan Thornhill. They lost Chardavius Ward to the 49ers. We'll see. But the Chiefs will be fine to me. That's why I currently have them at 5. It's just the question will be that division. Because now you got the Chargers with adding Khalil Mack, the Raiders, who I'll get into in a sec, and the Broncos. I mean, that division's going to be tougher. But for now, Chiefs at 5. This may be controversial. Probably the most controversial pick or placing I have on this current power rankings. But the Tennessee Titans at 6. Tennessee Titans. Now, I get it. Their playoff exit was too soon. Ryan Tannehill, everyone wants to throw away on Ryan Tannehill for his performance, and I get it. But when you look past that game, you look across the season, and you look across that roster, it's still a damn good roster. Ryan Tannehill, quarterback. Okay, the playoffs have been a walk in the park, but ever since they turned him over Marcus Mariota in 2019, last 3 seasons have been 9 wins, 11 wins, 12 wins. Finished with the 1 seed last season. And they still got Derrick Henry. They did lose Deontay Foreman, who I'm struggling as to why, but he probably wanted more money. That's probably the thought. But they did lose Foreman. You know, they released AJ Brown, or excuse me, Julio Jones. And they lost Roger Saffold, who I mentioned, but they re-signed Ben Jones. They still have Taylor Wan. You know, they traded for Robert Woods to pair with AJ Brown. You know, I mean, Westbrook Akina, I think, was underrated when it comes down the stretch. I mean, some of the plays he made were very good. You know, there's that. And then the defense, Harold Landry, Jeffrey Simmons, they'll probably get a someone else to shore up that secondary, but I mean Hooker and you know Kevin Byard. I mean that team is so loaded. That team is so loaded. So whether people like it or not, it's yeah. Number 7, San Francisco 49ers. Now, yes, I know that I am quite low on last year's power rankings, which I'll be back in a sec. One moment. Okay, audience, back here. Sorry about that, but I had to take a little delay. Back to the power rankings. So, the 49ers, yes, I had them a bit low last year, and that was my fault. I thought, you know, perhaps they were gonna cut ties with Jimmy G, you know, or he would get hurt, and that team could not help itself. And with D'Amico Ryans, I thought there was gonna be a bit of a drop off with the defense, but under D'Amico Ryans, they still very much performed. Nick Bosa had another solid season. Fred Warner, although he got hurt in the year at the end of the year, but defense or secondary is still a bit troubling, but still got done. Deebo Samuel, my second pick as Offensive Player of the Year behind Cooper Cup. George Kittle. I mean, Ayuk. He had a coming out party this year. The reports came out that John Lynch was not happy with Brandon Ayuk's development, but throughout the season, Jimmy G and Brandon Ayuk, that connection grew more and more, and we saw Brandon Ayuk kind of turning into a very good number two, if not great number three. So there's that. But obviously, now I mentioned the secondary. Signing Ward may very well help that issue, but other than that, not much change for although they did lose Laken Tomlinson to the Jets. Bit of a loss, but you know, offensive line still very much intact. Elijah Mitchell, a steal. See how he does in his second season, but yeah, good stuff here. The outlier though is Jimmy G. Jimmy G. What are they gonna do? Number 8. People will probably find this odd as well, but Las Vegas Raiders at 8. Las Vegas Raiders at 8. Now, the Raiders, you know, they had a bunch of issues, as we know, last season. You know, the Henry Ruggs stuff, the Damon Arnett stuff, they had to cut ties with their whole first round picks of 2020, which was obviously difficult, but circumstances were there. And, you know, it just felt like a dark cloud over the Raiders, the John Gruden thing, etc. But under its Bisaccia, they fought through. They fought through. Derek Carr really became, if he wasn't looked at as a leader before last season, he kind of took the ball and ran with it as a leader last season. Despite all the chaos, he was still there. Josh Jacobs, he was banged up all season, but he got through. Darren Waller as well hurts. But, Hunter Renfro, you know, Foster Moreau, Deshaun Jackson, that was a nice signing. Brian Edwards, they stuck through. They stuck through when times were tough. And, you know, and not to mention now, their defense has to be talked about. Now, they trade Yannick Ngakoue to the Colts for Rocky Asin, who is a guy who, he's been inconsistent, partly due to injury, but, when he's right, and he could very much solve a hole in that secondary. Then you pair Chandler Jones with Max Crosby. Just think about that. That duo. Max Crosby, Chandler Jones. I mean, that's going to be one hectic duel to face against in the AFC. Especially now that Max Crosby has gotten paid. You know it's going to be a fight. Now, yes, Chandler Jones did get nicked up again last season. Still had a double digit sack season. So, but that duel, along with that offense, and now Devontae Adams, signed Devontae Adams after a trade from the Packers. Him, think about it. If they're all healthy, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, that trio of receivers is kind of nightmarish. Kind of nightmarish, provided they are all healthy. So the black hole is going to be something to watch for this season. Then, speaking of the Packers, I have them at 9. Likely have them too low, but I mean, they're a question mark now for this upcoming season. Now, obviously, things can change, but for now, I have them at 9. You know, so if Aaron Rodgers signed that big extension, you lose Devontae Adams, you lose Billy Turner to the Broncos, you lose Darius Smith. I mean, it's just bit of a head scratcher are the Packers right now, but we'll see. We'll see. Number 10, the Cardinals. Arizona, the Cardinals. You know, Kyler Murray, we know that saga earlier this offseason, that seems to have been kind of cleared up, or at least bandaged for now. They have lost, you know, Rondell Moore, AJ Green is a free agent. Christian Kirk, they lost to Jaguars, but I mean, yeah. So DeAndre Hopkins, Rondell Moore had a heck of a rookie season. You know, JJ Watt, yes, we'll see about him, but still got Isaiah Simmons, Saban Collins. As far as the linebackers go, you know, still got some good talent on Cardinals defense in Desert. And this is where I stop because I know people are going to ask about the Browns. But I stopped with the Browns at 11. 11. Cleveland Browns currently at 11. Now, yes, you can say that look at their roster. Should have them top 5 or top 10. Yes, but last year I fell in that same hole. I had them at number 5. Number 5, and we saw that panned out. Now, again, I don't think it was all Baker's fault. And yes, I do think Deshaun Watson is an upgrade over Baker Mayfield, but just how it goes. Now, did lose Rashard Higgins and Jarvis Landry. We'll see about him, but signing Amari Cooper, you know, trading for Winovich, I mean, still got some hell of a talent on the Browns roster. 12, got them Cowboys. Got them Cowboys at 12. Now, much like the Packers, except with more talents, are a question mark. Why? Because I feel like I've been saying this for a couple years now. Cowboys have a lot of this talent, but yes, they're in a crappy division, which looks like it's going to be much tougher this season. But yeah, got the Cowboys. Steelers at 13. Steelers. Now, I know people, Steelers fans, probably shook their heads when Trubisky was signed to Steelers and they didn't get one of these, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. They didn't get any of those guys. Now I get it. Trubisky isn't one of those guys. But I do think he's a solid fit for Pittsburgh because I love Big Ben, but we clearly saw when in his declining stages, he could not run as well as he did a number of years ago. And what does Trubisky do well? Even though he's not Lamar Jackson or Kyle Murray, he can run the ball well. He's mobile in his own right. And he doesn't have as good as an arm as Big Ben had, but compared to last season, maybe an upgrade. So, and new line, Najee Harris had a heck of a season. Pat Fryermuth. It's going to be some good talent on that Steelers offense, along with TJ Watt on defense. You know, I mean, you got Cameron Hayward again, Minka, Terrell Edmonds. I mean, talent's still there in Pittsburgh. 14, I got my Patriots. You know, I like them at this spot because, they had overperformed last season in my eyes. And, you know, Mac Jones did well in his rookie season. Devontae Parker getting him, I think that's a plus. You know, Kendrick Bourne was very good but inconsistent. Hunter Henry, you know, was a complete red zone target. Loved that we picked him up. You know, but I mean, O-line, so we'll see. Defense, I like Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson. I love as a duo. I love in the backfield. So there's my thoughts on Patriots at 14. Next, we got the Chargers at 15. Chargers at 15. Now, you may look at this list and say, well, it's kind of looking like a standings. And yes, that is probably true, but at the same time, I'm liking to give credit to the playoff teams as much as I can. Yes, the Browns weren't a playoff team last year, but you look at that talent and you can only drop them so much. Same here for Chargers. You know, Justin Herbert in his third year, Mike Williams resigned, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Jared Cook. They may re-sign him, or they probably did. I have to check. That line, you know, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. Jeez, that's going to be a duel. On defense, Derwin James. We'll see if he can stay healthy. But Asante Samuel Jr. was a very good rookie, and we'll see about him. Charged at 15. At 16, I got the Colts. 16. Soft team around. I mentioned Ngakwe. Pairing him with DeForest Buckner. Should be an interesting duel. Kwity Paye, his second season. We'll see. Matt Ryan. Yes. I bet it's an upgrade over Wentz. Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman. They should get another receiver. They did lose Gowinski and Pascal, but I'm sure they're going to find some pickups in the draft. 17 Broncos. Yes, I know. Russell Wilson. But looking at the team and that division, you have to come clear that, okay, we'll see. We'll see. But I do like their offense talent with Dewey, Hamler, and Sutton. Then you got Reisner on the O-line, Miners, etc., Bowles. The offense talent is there, but that defense, we'll see. We'll see. Bradley Chubb seemingly is in a make or break year, it seems, for Broncos. So we'll see. But I wouldn't be surprised if they prove me wrong and they're a top 10 team when it comes down to it. 18. Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens. Lost 6 straight to end the season. Yes, they had an incredible slew of injuries, but questions will remain. Questions still remain. Lamar Jackson, the playmaker for that offense, and he's great, but Mark Andrews, I love him, but we'll see. That defense is a little suspect as well, so we'll see. That's where I failed. Now, 19. That's the question. Next up, 19. Oh boy. There's Miami. There's Minnesota. There's New Orleans. And there's Washington. But Dolphins at 19. Dolphins at 19, you know, have had a heck of an offseason. It just comes down to Tua. Comes down to Tua. You know, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, they had great seasons last season. Yes, Tua was hurt for a good portion of the season, but when he came back, it was good, it was solid, but it wasn't, what they were expecting, it seems. They did finish 9-8, but there's probably going to be a learning curve with Mike McDaniel as the head coach. So we'll see. 20. For me, it's either the Saints or Washington, but I'm going Washington, the Commanders, at 20. Carson Wentz, they could easily be a top 15 team and a playoff team. That's the thing about Carson Wentz. They could either be a playoff team or they're the back half. That's just what it is. Carson Wentz, and you look at that team, they're very much loaded. They very much have a solid roster built. And people will say, well, Colts roster was better, but I can argue that the weapons of the Commanders are better than what the Colts were. So we'll see. We'll see. 21, I got the Saints. It's weird ranking a Saints team this low, but no Sean Payton. I mean, it was a weird season for the Saints, despite finishing 9-8. And James Winston, you know, I expect him to have another upbeat season, a more controlled season, coming back from his ACL injury. Taysom Hill, probably use him in the way they want to, provided, Alvin Kamara be back. Michael Thomas, hopefully he's back. That defense is still very, very good. But we'll see. 22. I don't want to, but looks like this how I'm ranking them. You got the Vikings at 22. I got the Vikings at 22. The Vikings can be a bit of a headache for me. Why I say that is because you look at the roster and they're a good team. You look at the roster, they're a good team as far as the offense goes. Justin Jefferson has been a phenom really his first 2 seasons. Kirk Cousins gets much more hate than he deserves. I mean, the way he's played in Minnesota probably wasn't what they expected, but as far as the results are concerned, but I think he gets much more hate than he deserves. Dalvin Cook, still there. Uh, Christian Darrisaw, I did like, but we'll see. We'll see. I did like the Jordan Hicks pickup and re-signing Patrick Peterson. You like those pickups. 23. Some interesting names. I'm going with the Jaguars, though, at 23. Jacksonville Jaguars, they could very well be the Patriots of last season in the sense that the Patriots were the biggest spenders as far as last season's free agency, and the Jaguars have basically been that. Brendan Sheriff, Christian Kirk, you know, I mean, to supply with Marvin Jones, LaVishka, Chenault, etc. They did lose DJ Chark to the Lions, but I mean, the offense, and we'll see about the draft. But Josh Allen on defense, you know, some things to like about Jaguars this season. We'll see about Trevor Lawrence. We'll see. 24. At 24, I mean, Jets, Texans, Giants left, Seahawks, Lions, Panthers, Falcons, Bears. This is kind of a pickle. Really much a pickle. I'm going to go with the Panthers at 24. Panthers and Broncos last year both started 3-0. Both missed the playoffs. And very strange, but Panthers have done some good things this offseason. Getting Rashard Higgins. I mean, that wide receiver core, if they can just get some good quarterback play, whether they keep Darnold, whether they draft, Pickett, etc., Malik Willis, that wide receiver room is very good. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Rashard Higgins, Terrence Marshall. I mean, it's flabbergasting how they're 24, but, yeah, it's difficult. Christian McCaffrey, you don't know. You don't know. That's the issue. I mean, since he went 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving in 2019, last 2 seasons have been hard to stay on the field. Hard to stay on the field. And it's unfortunate, but you don't know. So there's that. Kind of why I think they grabbed Deontay Foreman. So there's that. 25. I'll take the Seahawks. Seahawks at 25, there's some good qualities on that team. There's some good qualities. People want to say, well, they're in a rebuild. They should try to trade everybody. But they got some good stuff still, despite losing Wagner and Russell Wilson. Getting in that Russell Wilson trade, they got Noah Fant and Shelby Harris. Two good pieces for your team. They still got Metcalf. They still got Lockett. On the defense side, one of the reasons I think why they were okay with letting Wagner go was because Darrell Taylor, who did well, and Jordan Brooks. Jordan Brooks, the Seahawks had two guys in the top 5 of tackles last season. And Jordan Brooks, along with Bobby Wagner, were there. So, got some qualities on that team. 26. I like the Jets here. The Jets at 26. Again, much similar to Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. They do have some good stuff on that team. And I think, they had some good pickups in free agency. Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzama, clearing up your wide receiver or tight end room, excuse me. Elijah Moore was pretty good at the end of the year. Zach Wilson, we'll see how he does his sophomore year. I mean, Michael Carter showed some good spurts last year. You got Tardif, you got Elijah Vera Tucker, and provided he comes back healthy, Mekhi Becton. And that's one hell of a lineup for your O-line to protect Zach Wilson. So, see how it goes there. 27. 27. I'm actually going with the Lions here. Or, excuse me, the Bears. Bears here. Justin Fields. See how it does the second year. They didn't do much in free agency. Of course, trading away Khalil Mack. Robert Quinn, good for him. He broke Richard Dent's record. Roquan Smith, got him. Darnell Mooney. Montgomery, Khalil Herbert. I like them as a duo as well, but we'll see. 28. Hmm. Huh, huh, huh. 28. Dicey, to say the least. I'm going with the Lions at 28. Two straight NFC North teams. I will say Jared Goff is not as bad as I think people think. Did some good stuff last season. You know, think about it. Then you get another receiver. I mean, you got TJ Hawkinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and another receiver. Don't sleep on the Lions next season. That's all I'll say. 29. So let's see. Falcons. Falcons, Giants, Texans. So I missed on the Eagles. Well, if I were to fit the Eagles, I'd probably say I would honestly fit the Eagles at 20 before the Commanders and everybody down. But sorry for slowing over the Eagles, but Eagles got some good stuff. They got kind of overperformed similarly to the Patriots last season, and they got a good style, but it's about Jalen Hurts, developing more. But nonetheless, that's the pre-draft power rankings for the NFL season, upcoming NFL season. And let's do really quick, because it's been over an hour, the real the NBA playoff play-in tournament preview. Give my thoughts on that, but starting for tomorrow, we got the Cavs and the Nets, 7th and 8th seed, against the Clippers and the Timberwolves, again 7th and 8th seed. I got the Brooklyn Nets winning against Cavs, and I got the Timberwolves being the Clippers. They advanced the 7th seed. So then the both sides. So now, because of that, so then we got on Wednesday, we got Hawks versus Hornets. I got the Hawks there. And then we got the Spurs versus Pelicans. I got the Pelicans. Therefore, according to my math, we got gonna get the Cavs versus the Hawks. That's a tough matchup there for the Cavs. And then you got the Pelicans versus the Spurs. I got the Spurs there, or Pelicans versus the Clippers. Clippers win there. Cavs win there against the Hawks. So there you go. There you go. On next week's podcast, next week's episode, I'll do a more thorough preview of the NBA playoffs. I plan to, but because I did so long on the pre-draft power rankings, I figured just do the play-in preview and do it next week. So apologize about that. Getting into before we get out of here. What went wrong for the Lakers? You know, Frank Vogel, he got scapegoated today. He got fired by the Los Angeles Lakers. You know, the Lakers, I've talked about many times, but I think it's only fair to say that LeBron on the court wasn't the problem. What he was a problem with was his recruiting and getting his friends to play with him. The whole thing didn't gel well together. Now, Anthony Davis couldn't stay healthy. Westbrook was inconsistent. You know, Carmelo Anthony, which I'm not surprised, was probably more consistent than what Russell Westbrook was this season. I mean, it's unfortunate how delirious some people can be about the Lakers, and it is what it is. And lastly, the Braves. The Braves did not have a good opening day with their and honoring their first World Series since '95. They lost versus the Cincinnati Reds 6-3. It was 6-1. They did manage to make it 6-3, but they're there. They have scratched together 2-2 record now, but we'll see how it goes for them. Also, very impressed for Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods, great for him to be competing in the Masters after his devastating leg injury and a car accident. So great for him as well. But that is it for the podcast today, guys. Sorry, I tried to be more balanced for the podcast today, but you know, got away from me as far as the power rings go, because I like to go in depth about teams and such. But nonetheless, that's the podcast say for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it as well. But nonetheless, thank you all for joining me. Again, if you're new to the podcast and if you want to see more episodes, click that subscribe there in the corner. Like there as well. But thank you all. Be safe. I'm Ajoe21love. Be back next week. Peace.